Hi, it's Friday, June the 30th, and I continue to read and wonder my way through Mark's Gospel. Today we're finishing up chapter 8. It's Mark chapter 8, verses 31 to 38. Yesterday Jesus healed a blind man and then asked his disciples who they thought he was. Well, first he asked, who do other people say that I am? And we heard John the Baptist, Elijah, prophets, and then Jesus asked, yes, but who do you say that I am? And Peter said, the Messiah. And we pick up from there. So here it is, Mark 8, 31 to 38. Then Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter, said, "Get behind me, Satan. For you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake, for the sake of the gospel, will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when it comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." So, there we go. Dramatic. I feel for Peter. It must have stung. I mean, Peter just said, "You're the Messiah," and felt pretty good about that because Jesus liked that. Yeah, you've got it. Don't tell anyone, he said, but you've got it. And now, just a couple seconds later, he's calling him Satan. "Get thee behind me, Satan." And I certainly have heard it preached and talked about. I mean, I've heard it suggest even in that moment, it's as if Peter is possessed by Satan, the devil, a demon. Now, I don't know if you've been doing these meditations with me for a while, but you'll know that I struggle with the way we talk about Satan and demons and the devil. And I'm reminded that Satan is the adversary. That's literally what the name means. Satan, Hosatan, is the adversary, the one who has the contrary opinion. And you may recall when we were reflecting on Jesus being out in the desert, out in the wilderness, tempted by Satan, it felt to me that also could be that Jesus was spending time alone to wonder, can I do this? Should I do this? What if I don't do this? What if I do this instead? Dealing with those voices, the adversarial voices. I hear them. I don't mean I hear them disembodied, but, I will ask myself questions. Yeah, but what if I do this? Okay, but if I do that, I'm going to upset so-and-so and so-and-so. But this person's going to be happy. Maybe I should just focus on this person and just let that, what if I just quit and did something different entirely? Those voices help me that voice helps me make good decisions. That voice helps me discern what God is saying, what God wants of me. So even though we may read it dramatically and often preach it dramatically, I don't know that Jesus is screaming at him, that he's being insulted by him. He rebuked Peter. Yes, the same way that Peter rebuked him. Peter took him aside and didn't yell at him and say, "You idiot." Peter took him aside and basically rebuked him, disagreed with him. And I can imagine that Peter was saying, like, we shouldn't be talking about dying. That's going to demoralize everybody here, and I don't want to hear about you dying. And you know what? If we really put our heads together, we can find a way to do this without you dying. I'm pretty sure that we can make all of this happen, but you don't have to die. That's a rebuke, not an angry rebuke, but that is what you would call properly a rebuke. Just don't say that. There's a way to do this. We rebuke loved ones quite Regular, when they despair, we go like, no, 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 don't give up. Don't give up. We'll do this together, I promise. That's a rebuke. I think Peter could be rebuking Jesus the same way. And Jesus, yeah, I think Jesus is being very, very direct. We're going to go, no, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, adversarial voice. I've thought this through. I don't need to hear that. I am committed now, and I know that you want this to be easy. You want this to be without cost or sacrifice. But the truth is, we're changing the world, and it has a cost, and I am going to pay that cost. So, get behind me, Satan. I don't get in my way. Don't go cloud me. Get behind me. Follow me. Don't get in my way. You're setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. Right? You don't realize that I am one with God, and we are changing the world, and it isn't going to be simple. So I don't know that this scene actually has to be about yelling and screaming and creating again this bad guy who is always out to get us, even in the best moments. Right? I really struggle with that. Now, what was Mark thinking? I'm not sure that Mark was thinking the whole blown up, as if Peter's almost possessed by the devil, that he's being pulled by satanic forces. No, I think Mark, is added a little drama to it, a little exclamation mark, as it were, just to like, Jesus was like very assertive. But I think that Mark is just telling the story, and the story is when Jesus, reveals to them. I mean, think about it. Yesterday, Peter says, "You're the Messiah," and so we have a sense of what the Messiah is. The Messiah is the one who will restore Israel. The Messiah is the one who turns this defeat of being oppressed by Rome into victory. We're getting it all back. We're going to win again. We're going to be number one, right? And so he's saying to Peter, "You've got it right. I am the Messiah. But by the way, your vision of the Messiah is wrong." Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering. Son of Man is, I think that's Ezekiel's term for the Messiah. Right? So, the Son of Man must undergo great suffering. It's not going to be a victory parade. It's not just going to be, wow, done. There is suffering, and there will be rejection by the people who shouldn't be rejecting us, by the elders. We're going to restore Israel. We're going to restore the faith. We're going to bring God's presence, into the light, and the people who should be cheering are not going to. They're going to be rejecting me. The elders, the chief priests, the scribes. And I will be killed, he says. And then 3 days rise again. Says that quite openly, right? So Peter's like, no, that's not how Messiah works. Okay, stop demoralizing all the guys, Jesus. That's not a way Messiah works. Don't you know? No, Messiah arrives on the scene, wins a battle, it's all good. Do you need me to tell you about the story of David again? That's the kind of thing that I imagine Peter's rebuke to be. And this is why Jesus has to teach them, because that is their expectation. Right? That is the expectation of what a Messiah is going to be. And he's trying to teach them, no, it's different than that. This is not going to be what you would call a human victory. And I think about that, and I know that I am interpreting the words slightly, but when I think about that, I also realize that my faith does not provide me human victory. That is to say, the rewards of my faith would not necessarily be measured by my secular neighbors as a big deal, right? What I'm saying, I guess, is that if becoming, if deepening your faith and and letting go of that sort of false self and really feeling authentic in your faith and feeling connected to God. If you think that's going to get you a bigger house, pay off your mortgage, put money in the bank, make you run the 100-yard dash faster, that's not how it works. Now, for some people, that's what they think faith is about. I've shared this before. I've had people in my life who have looked me just straight in the eye and said, absolutely, I deserve the money I'm making because I'm faithful. And so God rewards me. I never get sick, and I'm rich. And sometimes I think those people are sent to test me. But that is not, for me, the way that faith works. And when I hear Jesus talking here, that's affirmed for me. You're setting your mind on not on divine things, but on human things. The way of faith changes the world, but it can come with cost. The way of faith is not that you get everything you want. I think it's that you stop wanting so many things. Says I, someone who has many things. I know that. I won't pretend for a second that I live a simple life. Just look at my t-shirt collection. But I try to keep my mind on divine things and let go of the human things. So I hear those words, and I think those words resonate with me, not because I'm trying to talk Jesus out of being in pain, but because I recognize that I often define my faith and the success of my faith, the reward of my faith, in human terms. But I'm getting better all the time. So he calls the crowd and he says to them, if any of you want to become my followers, then let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Now I have to tell you that this little part of Mark's gospel, many scholars, great many of them, feel strongly that this has been written after the fact, right? That these words that Jesus speaks were probably not Jesus's contemporary words. He probably did not actually say these words. They've been edited in after the fact. The reason for that, of course, is he says that his followers should pick up their cross and follow me. Well, Jesus hasn't been crucified yet. So what would that mean to them? And I've heard people say, oh, no, yeah, but before that, though, he said, no, he was going to be rejected by the elders, chief priests, the scribes, he'd be crucified and rise 3 days from now, so you have to be ready to be crucified too. But he doesn't say that. The text doesn't say that. It says that he would be rejected and killed, and after 3 days rise again. Killed. Lots of ways to be killed. Could be stoned, which makes a lot of sense in this context, right? So now there are those who think the first part too is after the fact, because of course it mentions the after 3 days rise again. But interestingly enough, because it's not after 3 days, it's on the third day the resurrection occurs, that I go, no, maybe Jesus did say it this way, because it doesn't exactly fit perfectly. The way real things don't always fit perfectly. But anyway, regardless, it does seem odd to say my followers have to pick up their cross and follow me when Jesus hasn't been crucified yet. Now, I wonder about it, and I suppose Jesus could be saying that you're going to have to go against the government, because what people would have known then, some of us know it now, but we don't think about it so much. Rome crucified political threats, right? Rome did not crucify burglars. Rome did not crucify even murderers. If you were, if someone in the occupied territory murdered another person, so if a Jew murdered a Jew, they don't care. If somebody murdered a Roman citizen, absolutely, the protection for Roman citizens, Rome took very seriously. But you still wouldn't be crucified; you would be executed. Crucifixion is for political opponents. So, I can wonder about that and wonder, all right, so maybe Jesus is saying, if you want to become my followers, so if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Let them deny themselves and be prepared to oppose the government. I think that's a stretch. But it's not impossible. And it invites me to wonder. Do I oppose the government? Should I? I mean, I grew up, with a Western European heritage, divine right of kings and all, and it's our job to obey the government. We've been taught that it permeates our faith. At least the way it's preached and shared, it absolutely does. And I can find texts in the gospel that suggest, no, we absolutely should render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, render to God that which is God's, when asked about paying taxes and coins and all that stuff. So, but then here's another one to make me wonder about that, and I appreciate that. I don't think that's what Mark is doing intentionally, but it does invite me. When will I oppose the government because of the gospel? If I live in a country or in a region that supports the death penalty, but I don't believe in the death penalty, will I oppose the government by voting against it, by campaigning against it, by lobbying against it, by blowing up a prison and letting people free? Where do I draw the line? Right? Or do I just simply say, no, I'm not going to do it? Or do I move away from that place and say, I can't live here? I mean, there are a number of issues that can be divisive like that. And I mean, that could be women's rights and rights of the unborn, and where those converge. That can be death penalty issues, but there can be all sorts of social issues. It can be around immigration. It can be around laws and regulations that affect those in poverty. There's so many ways. And it's worth thinking about. Because I think that many of us, it's my observation anyway, many of us can get into a habit. So that anything the government says or does, I'm going to go out there and protest. Well, maybe I don't need to. Or, no matter what the government does, I'm just going to take it. Because God obviously supports the government. That's how they got elected. It is the divine right of that ruler. And so I'm not going to fight that. I'm going to see God in that leader and in that government. Now, those are words I would never use. But if I look back over my 60 years of life, I'll bet there have been. Well, I know there have been times I've just gone, I don't agree, but I think God's plan is further down the road, so we're just going to put up with it for now. But there's also been other times that I have protested and been detained and done all the things. I wonder what Jesus is saying there. I wonder. And then Jesus gets into chiasms, right? So those are the things that cross over on each other, chi being the Greek letter. So those who want to save their life will lose it, right? Jesus says, the first will be last, the last shall be first. Same kind of thing. It is part of the way that Jesus seems to turn the world upside down. It's a great little teaching technique, because it's a little saying you can keep in your head. You never forget it. The last will be first, the first will be last. Easy to remember. If you want to save your life, you'll lose it. If you want to lose your life for my sake, then you will save it. Now, whether Jesus wants me to be doing that arithmetic all the time, or that function, as much as Jesus wants me to understand that he is turning things upside down. It's not the way you think it is. Messiahs do suffer if they're going to change the world. They don't just sort of come in and get to become the new king magically, or having a bunch of soldiers die on their behalf. No. No. Messiah now, what we're talking about, will struggle and suffer and die and rise again. What? No, I'm turning the world upside down. So, if you want to save your life, you're going to lose it. Those that protect themselves. I used to say this to my kids all the time when they were little. When you're selfish, if all you do is care about yourself, then people will look at you and realize, well, you're already caring for yourself, so they don't need to. So just being selfish that way can be very isolating, because other people don't need to care about you because you've got it covered. Right? So that's, if you want to save your life, you're actually going to lose it, because my kids wanted lives where they had friends and there was dynamic relationships. They wouldn't have used those words, but I was their dad. I recognize it. Still am their dad. But anyway, so this makes sense to me. That sometimes you have to do the opposite of what you think you should do. You want to live abundantly, then you know what? Give it all away. Get to know how a potlatch society works. So in indigenous communities, that you throw a party and you throw everything in. When that party is over, you have nothing left. You have bankrupted yourself. But then everybody contributes to keep you going, and then someone else is going to have a potlatch, and then they give everything they have, and then you get some of that, and it's an interesting way of giving it all so that you actually get. Because then what you get isn't something you have manipulated or taken advantage of, stolen. It's not that. It has been gifted to you. It's a remarkable thing. Now, I don't think that Jesus knew about potlatches, and I'm not sure that Mark would. But for me, it fits in there quite nicely. And basically what Jesus, for me, is saying in this one is that, if you do everything to be successful in the world, but it costs you your life, then what was the point? And those words really resonate with me right now. And it's a little bit judgmental of me, but still in the wake of 5 multimillionaires being crushed at sea because they wanted to go down and see the Titanic. What was it, $250,000 to go? $500,000, I think it was something like $250,000. $250,000 to go down to the bottom and see essentially an aquatic graveyard. And of course, the people doing it, these are millionaires. Obviously, you can spend $250,000, you must be a millionaire. And I say, I don't know these people and I can't judge their lives, but I very quickly think, so here are people who have everything, but it's not enough. So they are thrill seekers. They're looking for the new thing, the next thing, because they want to feel something. Now, that's really judgmental of me. All of them may have been very faithful, devout people, feeling very connected to God and doing amazing things in the world. I honestly don't know. But as that whole story unraveled, I just wow. It just felt very, very sad, not just for the loss of life, but also because it seemed to me that their lives were empty beforehand. That's why they were in that little submersible. I judgingly say the same thing about billionaires who race each other to fly into space. Wow, you've got everything, but boy, oh boy, do you seem to act with a desperation that suggests that you don't have anything. That, to me, is what Jesus is talking about right now. Those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation. Adulterous and sinful, I love that. Adulterous means you lack integrity. You don't keep your commitments. And sinful means you are distant from God. Well, in a time when we when we seem to lie easily and break agreements, when we seem to be spiritually vacuous, yeah, those words ring true. Those who are ashamed of me and my words, well, I don't think that it means that Jesus is going to punish me because I haven't stood up for Jesus enough. But it is a reminder that when I hide my faith or when I don't attend to it myself, ashamed doesn't mean I have to go and shout it from a rooftop. Ashamed just might be like, I don't feel like doing the whole thing today. I'm not going to do the Bible thing today. I'm just going to give the whole Jesus thing a rest. Frankly, it's making life difficult for me. It would just be a whole lot easier just to let that go for just a little while. When I do that, I need to understand that that has consequences. Not, again, that Jesus will reject me or that God will say, no, I'm going to punish you with eternal torment. But I will find myself sad. I will find myself poorer off for doing that. I look around the world and I recognize that, yes, there's a lack of integrity and a spiritual vacuum seems to be there, and yet I still live in that world and want to achieve the things that that world is promising me. Oh my goodness, I absolutely do. Look at that watch. I want to buy that new watch. Yeah. You know what? I'm totally rambling now, and I'm going to leave it with you. You got a whole weekend on it. So if you happen to live proximate to me, have a happy Canada Day. Whatever that means for you, you celebrate the Canada that you are. Thank God for you, because you help make us who we are as a country. And if you don't live in Canada, that's okay. Celebrate who you are too. But I'm just kind of leaning into Canada Day right now. Anyway, I hope you have a fabulous weekend, and I hope you come back on Monday. But for now, let me offer a prayer. Loving God, thank you. Thank you for this time of wondering. Thank you for opportunities to examine our lives and to consider our relationship with you and with each other. Help me, God. Help us, God, to keep our mind on holy things, divine things, and let us not be overly swayed by the world around us. Let us participate. Let us enjoy our lives, but let us never forget our connection to you. We pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah, that's enough for me today. Have a great weekend. God bless you. Please know that God sees you and loves you, that God's love moves through you into the world, and a world that needs your love, God's love. It makes a difference. You make a difference. Until I see you again, God bless.